Hello, Culture Matters podcast. This is a big deal. It is New Year's Eve 2024, the Jubilee. Our theme this year is Soren Kierkegaard's quote, "Life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forwards." And I'm here with some of the most important people in my life. If you follow the Culture Matters podcast, you know our guests. They've been on numerous times. Before I introduce them, here's a quote just for this episode. An idiot with a plan can beat a genius without a plan. Warren Buffett. Our guests, Christine Beckwith, the one and only, Nathan Knottingham, my dear friend, and Mike Drop Calhoun. Thank you for joining me. If you're listening to this show, check out episode 735, the most recent episode for Christine's new book, High Selling is a Drug. Episode 181 and episode 16, where I explore Nathan Nottingham's mind that we'll be getting inside of today. And episode 552, What is an Advisor with Mike Calhoun. Mike is somebody I met years ago, and immediately after a fiery explosion of personalities, something I share definitely with Christine Beckwith. We were best friends. And just like that quote, the meaning of two personalities is like the mixing of chemical substances. If there's any reaction, both are transformed. Mike, I want you to know, and Nathan, that Christine saw me almost like a little baby coming out of a womb before there was even a pregnancy. And Mike, I want you to know that Nathan has been a steadfast friend ever since the first time we talked, and he thought I was either recruiting him into a cult or selling him something he didn't want, but didn't
This
quite
is true.
know who I
That is
was or
true.
what I was up to. And I want all you guys to know that I love you, I care about you, and this is going to be an amazing conversation. So, Mike, meet Christine and Nathan. Christine, meet Mike, and I know you already know Nathan so well, and I can't wait. Nathan, meet Mike Calhoun. And by the way, you guys, we had a whole group. The whole point of this episode for all you is all the listeners. We've been going since 4 a.m. We're only stopping when they kick us off. We've been inviting guests to the next show, so you're more than welcome to pop on the next one when Robert and Eric I come on. But today we're talking about I have a word for 2024, 2025 and 2024. So 2025 is intensity. We're talking about our words and reflecting on the past and looking to the future. So guys, thanks for doing this and yeah, meet each other.
Ladies,
Hello.
pleasure. Pleasure. Nathan, Christine, where are you located geographically?
I am in the Valley of the Great White Mountains in New Hampshire, where I was born and raised. I just came home after being away for 37 years this past year.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That was a lovely description
I know, right? I kind of want to go now. The Great White
Nathan,
Mountains.
bro, you got a little competition.
Yeah, no, I'm in North Texas. I am in nowhere fancy and special, but I do love it out here at the rolling hills of North Texas around Lake Texoma, where the striper fishing is world class.
Love that. I think Texas has so much to offer. Um, what's
There's no other state I've been in that describes itself in geographical region sections the same way Texas does. When they brag about going from the Cape or the Horn of Texas all the way to where I'm at is longer than driving from where I'm at to Chicago, Illinois. So we're pretty proud of how long it takes anybody to get anywhere in Texas.
That's funny. What city are you in?
So I'm in a little town called right between Pottsboro and Denison, Texas. I live on the edge there, and so Lake Texoma, right south of that. I'm almost an Oklahoman. I'm like 10 minutes away from the Oklahoma border. So Sherman, Texas is probably the most. If you Googled anything, that's the one you'll probably find the most of, and that's just my border.
Yeah, cool, very cool. Well, pleasure to meet both
It's
of you.
a very scary
You
place to
too.
drive as a woman. I had to drive there to volunteer for a week's worth of veteran fundraising.
That's
Got
right.
to Got to shoot a 50 cal in the middle of the hot Texas summer. It's about 110 degrees in the shade. That's no lie or exaggeration. I think I lost 10 pounds in a week and ate a lot of gumbo, but
So
it's
win-win-win, no
it
matter how you look at
is.
it.
It was a great cause and I had a ton of fun. I came home with a fractured collarbone, a slight a hairline fracture. But that's like
Wow.
sexy, right?
I
So
mean,
it's like a war wound.
yeah, you're right.
It's
Yeah.
I
evident.
have a 2024 has been a crazy year, and you guys have done all sorts of things together. Oh, that sounds actually kind of wrong after that. So, sorry, you've worked together for a while, Nathan and
Hmm?
Christine. Christine, what's one thing that you admire about Nathan, something that you learned from him or with him in 2024, would you say?
I mean, my first impression of Nathan was just how real he is, and I am so attracted to like genuine people, and that's probably how our start is as well. Because as off-putting as you could be in the beginning of our meeting to the world, I understood what you were saying, and it resonated with me loudly. In 2024, years ago, the thing that is, I think, really a calling card for Nathan is extremely good about long-term visionary plans, and I'm all about that. And so over the years, when our friendship developed, and we collaborated, we found he constantly came back with more ways that would be mutually beneficial for our business relationship. And I can't tell you
Wow.
how many times I've sat down at a table or he's taken the opportunity when we've been traveling for trade show orgs or whatever it is. And he said, "Can you spare 15 minutes?" And I know a ton of people that go to do these things. They pay the money, they go, and they don't make the connections get feet or get
Hmm.
traction. But Nathan always came with an idea, a plan, and then he would execute. And one of his ideas several years ago was like, I'm going to build my own continuing education company. And he watched 2020 Vision coaching grow. He
Wow.
saw the possible alignment. And in 2024, beginning of 24, he said, let's do this. Let's launch a competitive continuing ed platform. I know this, you know that. Let's put our heads together. And today we're out there grabbing market share across the nation as one of the best, if not the best. I don't want to sound cocky, but really amazing continuing ed platforms for loan
Hmm?
originators across the nation. So I believe him when he says he's going to do something,
Mm.
and other people should as well. He's not an idea mill. He has an idea, he executes, and then he goes on to the next thing and so on. So that's where my admiration for him is.
Nathan, where do
Wow.
you think you learned that idea to execution?
Uh,
Because a lot of people have ideas but lack execution.
I fear failure. I think we talked about that in episode whatever number was the last one you said. That's
One
that's one of those things
161
like
or 181,
uh
yeah.
failure is a hard thing for me to swallow. And so when you fear failure, a lot of times you're cautious about maybe what you say unless you're pretty sure you can execute on it. So I sit there and think about it a bit. But I'm going to revisionist history this just a little bit. I remember that dialogue with Christine going a little differently. It was more like, hey, I admire you. I'm really impressed by what you build. Can I build this for you? And she's like, I'd rather have you as a partner. And that was just a huge honor to me. It's
Wow.
like it was instead of a like I saw myself as a doer for her, and she said, no, I'd rather build with you. So that was a huge honor and one that kind of kicked us off the way we're going now, what we're doing now. And I think friendship and connectivity there. I've always struggled with self-doubt at the fact that it was hard for me to envision the biggest, newest idea, right? You set me in front of a canvas, a blank canvas, and I sit there and I just sit there. I don't know what to do. And this was the same studying music growing up, being a music major. I'd sit down with a chord sheet, or I'd sit down with my staffs, just a blank page, and like, hey, you have to write all this stuff out. And I'd be like, I don't know where to start. But if somebody goes, hey, I want it in this key at this timestamp, I want it to sound like or feel a little bit like this, I went, oh, well, I can do that because I had a point of reference with which to pull from. I was really bad at just coming up with a reference. And so once I kind of adopted that and realized that's who I was, and it was not something to be ashamed of or to be considered, but it was actually the strength I was given, that's where I kind of leaned into it. And that's
Wow.
why working with people that are able to say, oh, I got this idea, I don't know what to do with it. I'm like, oh, guess what? I've got a lot of experiences, a lot of knowledge, a lot of connections. I'd love to bring them together. So Christine does that as well in a huge way, but she even, I think, drives out the other side, which is to push those of us that are even doubting ourselves to say, no, no, you're worth it. You got it. Go. Like, keep going. Don't give up.
So
Wow.
fill in the gap for me here, just real quick. You two are partnered on the same company. You work together. Like, what is the is there a working relationship?
We have a
There is.
partnership. Yeah, we have a partnership newly formed in the last year of a continuing education. Like all loan officers in the nation have to get continuing ed to keep licensure.
Sure.
I actually own 2020 Vision for Success Coaching and Consulting and another company called Lighthouse Advisors, which is a consulting. We mainly
Lighthouse.
focus Lighthouse Advisors, yeah. And we mainly focus on mortgage professionals and real estate professionals. We're an educator, and we do everything. And so I know Nathan can tell you what he does. He has separate companies. We are living in the same fishbowl as far as who
Mhm.
we serve. So we would constantly be bumping into each other. Our sales funnels are similar. So we do have a relationship and a business partnership in one company that's mutual, but we do not work together every day. But we do get to see each other weekly in an
And the
executive.
partnership is tied on what what product or
On
MLO
the loan
Force.
up, yeah, MLO
Yeah.
Force it's called.
Yeah. Continuing education training for loan officers.
and what is the book the
Oh, that's my last book I just published in November. It's called High Selling is a Drug. It's my sixth book, and it's my playbook for high performance sales. Prior to what I do today, I served 32 years in the mortgage industry. The last 24 years of my career, I was an executive sales leader. So I served 12 years for H&R Block Mortgage oversight for their national mortgage platform, grew it to about 1,250 loan officers and 210 branch managers, closed it during the mortgage implosion, and then got picked up by a young commodities mortgage security back investor off Wall Street to build another bank called Annie Mac Home Mortgage.
oh Annie Mac, okay.
And I did that for 12 years as their sales vice president, and then retired and built a consulting company. And I write.
So is that like your kind of most fulfilling activity right now is the writing?
Yeah, I loved writing as a child, and I'm a bit of a manic. I can't sit still, and I'm an overthinker. So I write because it's cathartic for my brain. And I've done very different books. All six of my books are very different. I two business books and kind of two life books, two specialty books. But yeah, and they've been successful and I'm grateful. I lecture on them. So once the book goes out, I get hired by the banking industry to come and lecture on the material, and then we distribute the books in the audience. And so it's kind of a sexy combination of, keynote plus that. So it's a product. I'm old. I'm 55 years old.
Wow.
I don't think I'm no less powerful than I used to be, but I
You didn't
definitely
tell me she was a comedian and a jokester too.
Oh,
Come on, get out
thank
of
you.
here.
Thank you.
What are the six books again? It's the high selling.
Yeah, my first book was called Wise Eyes, See Your Way to Success. It's a business planning book and it has stories. My second book was called Clear Boundaries. It was based on two murders of two of my girlfriends. That book made it on Good Morning America, which was super cool. I wrote a book called Breaking the Cycle, which is my rags to riches book. And then I did a book called Win or Learn with the highest ranking females in the history of banking, 14 of the highest seated women. And then I did a book called Finding Honor, The Journey to the Truth, which actually, ironically, is about my meeting of Jay and this happenstance that I would meet him and it would change my life and why. And it's kind of my tell-all. It has dark spots. It has things that people worried about me saying out loud that I'd never said publicly. And
I like the way
um,
she describes she's very she illustrates well in her categories. Oh, this one's my tell all. This one's my, I like
Great
that.
yeah.
writer. If anybody's interested in listening, we go through each chapter of Finding Honor on the Culture. Any of the listeners, you type in the Culture Matters Podcast, Finding Honor, you'll see chapter 1 to 22, and now we're on chapter 6 of High Selling is a Drug. And they're all as good as Christine, as great as Christine is as a speaker. Her writing is fantastic, and
I can
it's
tell.
evolved in a positive way. Each book gets better than the last, and Brad actually did the forward of the new book, and I cried when I read it because I know how much attention he put into. It's a very well written forward. The forward is so damn good. I'm telling,
It
and
is. It makes you jump out of your seat.
you could tell they love each other and they have a great chemistry. And Mike knows Brad really, really well. But we're not, I know you guys are all meeting for the first time, but I gotta ask, Nathan, if what was your word for 2024, or if you didn't have one, what would it have been? And I'm asking that specific because all this unbelievable stuff has happened. I mean, I've known you very well for a couple years, and
Mhm.
so if you did you have a word? If not, that what would it have been? And
It's kind of funny. You think that with the kudos that I got from Christine, I might have a word and plan it out and be very blueprinty in that response. But I really didn't, and I think that's partly because one of the things I love doing is flexing with the change that happens to us. I like to have an idea where we're going, but never be so set in my ways that we can't modify.
I like this
Well,
guy already, Jay.
well, I
I
mean,
knew this was going to be fun. So
and I've got questions for you, Mike. I did the quick little research on board advisors, and I'm just kind of reading. I love what you're setting up here. So anyway, so Jay, to answer that question, I'm going to say what the word looking back and the words that I will go through. I went through
yeah,
a big year, right? So vetted VA is in its fifth year. That's how Christine and I met in 2019. Moving forward, we went through a pivot part. My partnership with Be My Neighbor Mortgage. We actually were acquired by a publicly traded real estate tech company, and I went through that process. I launched MLO Force. We sold to 750 LOs, their CE this year. Out of the gate, we took 33 hours of continuing education content written, filmed, produced, launched on an LMS with Lightspeed. Shout out their amazing team. And to the marketplace
wow,
in 6 months, and then started selling and had raving 5-star reviews, more than I've ever seen doing this business for a number of years previous. Great success and launch there, and I've learned. And so my word is learn. Just learn. And
oh
I
wow,
had leaving my bachelor's and my master's degree when I did those early 2000s. I had a professor, Dr. Trammell. I was so frustrated getting my bachelor's. I couldn't grab that big job. I was still working at Starbucks, and he sat me down. He said, "Look, you just paid us for 4 years of teaching you the theory of business and communication." He goes, "You're now working for a Fortune 100 company, and they're paying you. Go spend the next 4 years having them pay you and learn how to put our theory into action and see where that
wow.
takes you." And from that point on, I spent 6 years at Starbucks, worked my way up, and then I moved into lending, and I've been kind of in this game ever since. But from that point on, I look at everything as a learning opportunity. I'm literally going back to college every single year. I'm just grateful that this year I get paid for it. Even if it's hard work, I'm still getting paid to learn.
That's
That
interesting.
made me emotional. Yeah.
So didn't you say something about learning too, Christine? There was the title of a book or something?
Yeah, Win or Learn was one of my books as
Win or
well.
learn.
Yeah, Win or Learn was one of my books. Yeah. Yeah, all I do is I mirror what
Wow.
Nathan says about an insatiable appetite for education and evolution. Um, and I think that's why I can bring coaching to people that either have never done it or don't believe in it. I wrestle with a person that will tell me I know it all, I don't need a coach. Because age has helped me become more confident in that conversation. I won't try, I've always said I won't try to convince somebody to do coaching if they don't believe in it, because I'm interviewing them as well because I want them to be a good client. And if I feel like they've got quit in them, they're not my guy. Like I want high performance. I'll pass over, I'll walk over, I'll starve before I take money from somebody that's going to quit me in 90 days. Like I'm looking for something when I'm looking for people.
You're
And
looking
I
for an
think,
athlete.
yeah, I'm looking for an athlete. I say it in the book. And I have a reputation for being tenacious. But I don't do that to do it. Like I'm not one of those people that are trying to pound my chest because I lack, I don't know. It's not, I am who I am. Like I've always had the ability to kind of say it like it is. I'm the person that'll pull punches if I see talent in somebody. Like if I see somebody that's not giving
Mm.
their potential and I think I can get them up on their feet swinging at me, I'm fine with it if they get up on their feet. Because once they get fighting mad, then I know I've got them where I want them, and I'm okay. Having been, and I'm always careful with this because I don't want to turn off women's organizations that I do get hired to speak for, but I am not a woke woman. I say that because I lived as a 1% female executive in the banking industry, and I say very publicly, I never knew really that that was true, other than looking around the room and seeing 99%
I would say
men.
you were in a men's
Yeah,
world.
I lived in a man's world, but I saw that the men would pick me when there were small groups of people they wanted to formulate. I got chosen over, 95% of the other men because of my grit, because of my results. This book, in its own way, I was afraid for a long time. Jay helped me with this as my coach because, I reached some sort of point in my career where I had a lot of, amassed a lot of success and notoriety and magazine covers before you paid for them. Never paid for a cover, been on a few. It's been great. That being said, it's because of my results. So you can't strip me of that. Like I'm not the type of person that gets knocked down easy because I fought for my wins and I have a record of winning consistently through change in different markets and all of those things. And I know what the recipe is for winning. And so I guess in my own mind, as long as I'm able and strong, I'm going to be here helping professionals go from good to excellent or great to excellent. I think there's a road beyond where people's potential is, where you get
Mm.
pushed to reach for some other level that you don't even think is there. When I submitted to Jay coaching me, it was hard. Jay was 26 years old. I'm a
Oh
lot
my
older
God,
than
yeah.
him. I know. And I was like, will you coach me? And he's like, I don't coach people. And I'm like, this was before he did anything. And I said, but I know you are at an intelligent level enough to take what I'm talking to you about, dissect it. I'm ready to do the work on myself. And I can tell you, he took on a lot because I would fight him. We would get in screaming matches and coaching sessions. It's not always, but sometimes, because he would push me to that point and I would swing. He would get the swing out of me. And he'd be like, okay, good, we're getting somewhere.
He
But that's
dives
what,
into every time there's a problem or pain, he like
yeah,
perks up and he's ready to, okay, let's dig into that.
yeah.
Much like
Yeah, let
Nathan.
me let me put
And
my
I know
finger in that.
Nathan's like that. Yeah.
Well, and
So
Nathan, did you
anyway.
say that you engaged with Jay, but you didn't even really know what you were like, what are we doing?
Oh my God, the
So
funniest
yeah,
call
yeah,
ever.
yeah.
That was a cool
No,
story.
this is 2019. So I worked for a company and with a great training company called Knowledge Coop, and they are in Northwest in Washington, and made took a lot of training from voice over PowerPoint to video based education, and really kind of was given some reins there to lead and build and be creative, and we made some fun stuff. We did some fun stuff, and Christine and I met in 2019, April of 2019 actually. And after that, she's like, "Man, this is fun, and I'd love to have video." And I did a video for her first event I couldn't go to, and then Jay was like, he called me kind of out of the blue, like, "Hey, I'm Jay, and culture matters," and I'm like, "Who is this guy?" And he just kind of like goes off on these philosophers, and I'm
To
like,
who?
"No,
Who does it matter to, Jay? Talk to me.
yeah," and I'm like, "I don't know what we're talking about." And I remember I'm living in Washougal, Washington, and I have got about a 10-minute drive from my office to my house. I'm in my truck and I'm just listening to this guy talk. And I'm like, I don't know what we're about to do. Like, is he telling me I'm a great trainer, or is he trying to hire us for something? Am I pitching him, or are we talking about philosophy? And it was just and then I got to meet him in
What are we
person
doing?
a few months later. And I remember sitting down like, I'd like to talk more. And he just starts going down this trail. I thought, I'm not sure where we're heading. This is just a
How long
fun
did you
ride.
know Jay? How long did you know Jay before you engaged?
I didn't, but
No, we're
before
just
I,
we're very close.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
friends.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He's not coaching me, not yet,
Okay.
but he would be one that I probably call and say, I'm
Oh,
having trouble
oh,
Am
getting
I
through this
spraying
block.
Jay?
that means a lot. I mean, really. What'd you say, Mike?
Do you mind if I tell him my story just quickly?
I don't. Hey, The reason we're doing the New Year's Jubilee the way we're doing it is I'm molting. I can feel one of my butterfly wings coming out of the cocoon. Christine's been waiting 8 years for this, right? So yeah, share, of course.
So Nathan, you referenced BA. So in my world, like I just have access to everybody you can possibly imagine, and they're on tap. And we bring them through a process that, I mean, I know all the attributes. We built an entire platform around it. We interview them. I mean, it's detailed, right? And we created we have a relationship with that member where they many times are very contributive to the organization because it also creates a highlighter for them as well. So I kind of have more people wanting to contribute stuff to us. So it showcases their product or service. Like, of course, it's kind of a free thing to us, but for them, it's a good look too. So I don't really ever hire anybody for anything. I'm kind of usually pushing people off going, look, I don't even need that right now. So I have Jay, the most consistent follow-up. Like I'm good. I'm pretty good. Damn good when it comes to sales, I think. And he's so consistent and so elegant and never discouraged. And he's got these great questions. And he keeps telling me about this culture puzzle. And I'm like, bro, like, well, I don't even want that. I don't want it. I I'm not telling him as direct, but I'm like, so tell me about that again. Yeah, I just don't get it. Pretty soon I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea. Like we've been going through this for what, 6 years?
I met Mike on July 4th of 2018. Shout out to who literally brought Jeremy Adams, literally brought me to. Well, I don't want to interrupt the story. Go ahead. It's
I'm like,
fun.
man, I get it. You have something and you're really passionate about it. And you have this, like, for some reason, you've identified me as that athlete, right, Christine? And you want to put me in the game. But I have no idea what you're saying you're going to do. Like, but fuck
Because
it.
I haven't said it yet.
Yeah, yeah. I said, fuck it. Let's just do it. I'm in. Let's just do it. I don't even know what we're doing. And then he keeps talking to me about this culture puzzle. And I tell him, I
Did
said,
the
bro,
culture puzzle. And I want to tell you. I don't mean
here's what I told. I said, bro, if you hand that thing to me, I'm not even gonna read it. Is what I tell him. He's like,
let him read it to you.
just wait. Right? Oh well, don't get me wrong. Now I'm so believer, right? Like, yeah. But I mean, at the time, I'm like,
That's where our worst fights came from when he did the culture puzzle with me because he said some heinous stuff about me as he dissected my cultural mindset. That being said,
Funny.
I want to tell you, like you have to know, like being a banker, you're inspiring me to say this behind what Nathan said about Jay and now what Mike just said. I had people because Jay was unfound when we met. He was just a young guy, and he didn't have a business yet. And I had people that because he was on social and he would do these like very, and I'm gonna label them, but very eccentric like rant
totally,
videos.
totally.
And at the time, no, if you're seeing
Almost
videos
Howard
today, they're
Hughes.
very like I understand him now. Back then, I would just be challenged mentally, like to be intelligent enough to comprehend what he was saying. But I had a lot of people that would say to me, "Why are you hanging out with this guy? Like this guy's weird." And
Yeah,
first of all, I'm one of those people that
I am
like
weird.
when someone says that about somebody else, I'm more looking at the person saying it than I'm looking at what they're saying because I'm like, why are you like pointing to somebody else, whatever. And I didn't want to be defiant to the degree of hanging out with a weird guy to do it, but I didn't think he was weird. Like I understood him. He was on some other different level of intellect where my dinner conversations would just go into like, we'd sit down to eat, we'd clear the restaurant, we'd look up and, everybody was waiting for us to close our tab out because hours had passed. But I will say this. I have done a ton of business coaching with a ton of coaches. Jay probably didn't have the resume to coach someone like me at my level. And yet he has given me probably, I'm going to say four. I mean, he's given me tons and tons of advice personally that has developed me, that's been life-saving. Um, Leveled up my happiness, I would say, my work-life balance, a bunch of stuff that sounds so vanilla and is so much more complicated and complex than that. But he's given me at least four incredibly poignant pieces of business advice that, because of those pieces of business advice at the right time, led to me making millions of dollars. I was in awe of his ability to understand what I needed business wise and could dissect through question and answers and listening, because he's a great listener. And so I trust him explicitly. I don't ask him for a lot of business advice, but through doing what we do together, he's able to see, the things and kind of say, you got a pothole coming ahead. He's pointed out some people that I thought for sure were like, should be my right and left people sitting in my seats. And I'm not talking about my staff if you're watching. I'm talking about partners, business people. I don't need that hen's nest. But that being said, people that he said, beware of this or beware of that. And I went, really? No, I would put all my money on them. And he's like, and he'd repeat himself, beware of that. And then for sure, that like ended up being something I should have been beware of, you know?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
he has eyes.
I've only experienced Jay through immersion because I had no idea what we were going to be doing. What I was impressed with, and if you engage Nathan, um, it's the first experience with Jay is like he comes out and he's right by your side for a week, right? Which I told him, dude, it's not necessary. Like that's kind of weird. I'm in my own zone. No, 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 no. This is what it. And the dude straight just watching you for a week. Like I'm at my computer. I look over. I'm like this is what you're doing.
He
He's like,
did
yeah,
to
yeah.
me too.
Like he's like, yeah, yeah. Just keep going. I'm like, dude, this is weird. Anyway, I just keep working, keep working. But what I noticed is the first and second day, it's just definitely for me, it's just like, man, this is not even like something I would ever do. And what did I get myself into? And then it's like that third day, the layers, the onion starts, it's almost like
Hmm.
skin starts coming off, right? And
Yeah.
by the time you get to the fourth day, dude, by the time we were at the fifth day, he's like, he had cracked this thing open.
Yeah.
Like I think he almost was wondering, did I did I hit this coconut too hard? Like
Hmm.
it now he goes, I'm gonna have to stay another day. Calls his wife, reroutes the plane, stays into Saturday, and we just kept working. And at this point, he's broken me down to where I mean I'm still going. But when I look at some of the videos that we created on Saturday, I'm like, oh my God, I look like literal death. I am so tired. But he pushed me so hard because he was like in that, like what you were saying, he just keeps putting his
Imagine
finger.
bringing a dude home to your house when you have a boyfriend of 18 years that I've never married. Hey, I met this genius in Philadelphia. He's really weird. I've been going to dinner with him when I've been out there at the corporate office. He wants to come and follow me for 5 days at the house. My boyfriend has lived through a million things with me and he doesn't get in my way with business and all that. And he's super supportive, never feels intimidated. By the way, he wears the pants in our house. And I let him open the door, pay for dinner, and he's the boss. That being said, he lets
Not to
me,
mention that he looks like a model, so I should say that.
but he lets me be me. But so when I said, yeah, this guy Jay Durant's coming to the house for 5 days, he was like, okay. And there we were,
Well, I
going
mean,
through the stuff.
that's the kind of thing you want when you look at Jay. I guess this we're talking about you, but I've had the pleasure of reading a lot of books. I've got actually my next stack of books is back there. That's going to be this year's, but it's like when you is it Tim Grover, right? He's the one who coached Jordan. And some of those coaches, when they write their books, almost every single one, those that are coached talk about the best teacher, the best person that they were inspired by was the one who wouldn't accept the status quo, who wouldn't just pat him on the back, who would find things to say, you can be better here, you must do this, you must do that. And you don't do
100%.
that by walking in with a pedigree and your PhDs and stuff. You do that by actually giving people your attention. Focus matters, presence matters, attention matters. I mean, if you're going to pay somebody to be responsive and support you and help you grow, you want them to be in your life. And it's weird. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we started VetaVA to raise accountability and training. And what do people do? They pay us to literally hold them accountable to how they're doing originations for veterans and how they're training. And that's where change happens. You want that. So I think it's a great testimony to that philosophy. And Jay, I think the coolest thing about that is I thought I had to have pedigree to be who I am. And it wasn't until I was much older that I realized, nope, I'm designed the way I am and I'm going to be who I am.
Yeah,
I didn't have that confidence early on. And for whatever
I
reason,
want to
you got
speak.
that. And that was huge.
Well, but I want to speak. I'm a mirror to, I would say, so first of all, Carl Jung talks about synchronicity. I want the audience to know Nathan and I have been trying to track each other down for weeks on reschedule. We were going to do a podcast on Monday. It turned out to be today, and like this slot fit perfectly. There's synchronicity how we ended up here. I actually would argue that my life story is a mirror. I want to talk about Nathan for a second. I think there are Nathans and Jays, and there are Christines and Mikes. And I think, if anything, my story is a mirror for the consiglieres, the advisors too. And of course, that doesn't mean that Mike and Christine are not that to their people. But there's, I think what the lesson here is that we all need each other. There's complementarity in the team. And I think a lot of what you guys like, what some of the things that are being said of me, like I've learned that a lot of the things that Mike, you reminded me of it, of engagement. You've refreshed my palate, like that stuff you eat when you're eating sushi. I don't know what it's called,
Probably
but it's yellow. What's it called?
Wasabi or the ginger?
Ginger.
The ginger. Yeah, I ate the ginger, refreshed what it means to be all in on our customers, the work ethic, the passion to serve, the obsession. What's unhealthy becomes admirable, frankly. Christine, you've made me a better salesperson. I'm interviewing you about your book. I get the luxury of freaking realizing, oh my God,
That's
part
how
of
he
the
got me,
reason
Christine. You.
it was Christine.
What's that?
Part of the reason, oh my God. So think about this.
He
I'm
got me
listening
because
to
he was
her.
working with you.
She's
That's
talking
how
about
good he was.
chapter three. She is that
Thank you.
she's talking about chapter three, and I'm realizing that I'm not doing enough podcasts. And at that time, I had done a couple hundred, but oh my God, I could do more. And
You
it's
had
that
actually
type
been
of
going in a different direction under kind of
yes,
advisement, and you were like,
yes,
"Fuck this."
yes,
Can I say that?
yes. You could
We're
say it.
gonna turn this. Like I need to follow my instinct. Like I wanted to go this way. What you're saying to me and how we were going over it.
And so
Yeah.
I just want to say that it's a blessing that it's a blessing to know you guys and to be able to serve. And when I met you, Nathan, I saw a lot of of who I am in you. I want you to know that. And we all have our story. And obviously, yeah, I just I'm all, I thank you for your words, and I accept them. And I remember I had a mentor once, about 12 or 13 years ago, tell me, he actually yelled at me. We were having lunch. He said, every time I give you a compliment, you take it away from yourself. So I'm not going to do that. Thank you for your words. It means more than I could express with with you know. I accept, thanks for for sharing all that. It's priceless for me because this is
You
why
hate it.
I'm putting, no, I want what I want to be helpful. And I think all of you guys do too, which is why we work together. Even if it's not directly, we work together. We're all in the same boat. We're influencing and helping. We're all connected. So
The
that's what I
specialty
love
that
about all of you.
the specialty that I think Jay dedicated his focus and learning to is us, like that owner, founder, that entrepreneur, that
Yeah.
creator. Like the reason he's age, experience, and age wise perceived as unqualified is because
Mm.
usually, like, we've been at our game for so long, at this level for so long, dealing with our peers for so long. But I think the thing that makes him, that accelerated him, was that highly concentrated focus on us as a demographic. Like he studied the animal more than any other coach or consultant. Like we're the specimen. He studied us as an animal, as a creature, as a uh, area of specialty where others are studying business and business models and products and tech and things. Like he understands the psychology of who we are, and then he's like a food processor. So you're he's not a filter, he's actually running our
Yeah.
creation and our thoughts and our behaviors and culture, or whether, because there's always a culture, and whether it's good or bad, there's one, it could be a bad one. So he's processing, and it's almost like it processes it and it puts it back on our plate for decision and refinement, and the more we cycle that
Yeah.
through his engine, right, kind of
I
the
had
point.
the, go ahead. Did I just interrupt you, Nathan?
Well,
I
I'm just going
had,
to say this.
yeah,
Let me
go
put
ahead.
if I can, I'm gonna put this on record. Jay, I have had sitting in my documents a documentary outline that's been sitting here for 6.5 years that I haven't been able to finally find the linchpin, and I think Mike just hit it. You remember growing up and watching like Mutual of Omaha Wildlife Safari and stuff, and
Yes.
the different wildlife and the thing that made those shows was the beautiful cinematography, right? But National Geographic
Yes.
proved that it was the narrator. It was the person who was drawing what you were seeing into reality and saying, this is what you're seeing happen. And so, Jay, I think this is exactly how we can get this documentary launched. I'm just going to put it out here publicly. Christine, sometimes I ideate without an actual understanding of how we're going to do it, but I
No,
think we can get this done. Because I
that's
think,
a true sign of success, by the way. Take steps before you have all the answers. That's a
yeah,
doer.
because we got all the
Jay,
people in place.
you don't have to plan it all.
Yeah, no, you won't plan at all. But I think Jay, your role is to narrate this documentary of business leadership in a new and unique way that takes a more of a role of a Mutual of Omaha, observe
Oh, I love
and
this.
Oh,
account
wow.
for it, and talk about like Gladwell writes The Tipping Point and David and Goliath, and there's Good to Great by Jim, what's his name, right? And
Collins.
then there's, yeah, by
Yes.
Collins. And so almost all of them are academic perceptions of what took somebody or something from zero to the level. But I think the
That's
perception
what
is
this is
you're
about, by
looking
the
at
way.
them at the level and saying,
Wow.
you know what? Not just here's what took them to the level, but in that level, here's where they're going to get better. And that's a marginal spot that we need to move to in the next effort. So just
Hmm.
saying that out loud, put it in front of
I
Mike,
love
who I just
that.
met.
That
So
inspired me.
Christine,
Mike, I
can
mean, if
Thanks.
I,
you're going to run with it, do it. But Christine and
will
Mike,
you
and
be
yeah,
willing to, in closing, oh, man, uh, Christine, would you
I
be
had one
willing to
more
read
thought.
something?
Do we have
Okay.
time for me to
Yeah,
have a one
please. Yeah.
minute
Well,
thought? I don't want you to lose
we're
your
good.
thought though,
No,
'cause
we're
I
not.
know you're
No, it's
wrapping
not
up.
going anywhere.
No, I just want to
I got
say
30 days of thought. There's my joke for the start.
the greatest, I went through the greatest metamorphosis of my entire life and career in a fishbowl with the world watching me and nobody knew it happened. When Jay got me, I was cocky. I was, I had won so much and I was at such a top of the mountain and surrounded by so many ass kissers and people that were telling me how great I was. And I had so much power and money and all of these things. And he looked at me like literally and was like, you know, what fucked you up? Like, what broke you? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, nobody drives this hard unless they're like motivated by like anger, revenge, like, you know, whatever. And as we peeled the layers back, that's exactly like I had been running from my childhood. I had been running, you know, my whole life. And so that made me stop because I suddenly had a mirror kind of looking at me, one that I'd never put up in front of my face. And I realized, shit, like, is this the way the rest of the world sees me? And so I'm going to tell you, I went down a 10-year road to figure all that out. And I did figure all of it out. Like I figured it out. I treated the trauma. I did all the stuff. When I got fixed, I didn't desire being on stages, being out front. Something had changed. The fuel for that had died. And I was pissed because I said, fuck, you've made me not edgy now. Like you've made me lose my edge. Like that's what made me powerful. I said, so I've overcorrected. So you need to let me go and you need me. I don't need new fights. I don't need new trauma, but I got to figure out how to live on this mountaintop now because this is what I built. And so I have now been running the business for 6 years, fixed of my traumas and in such a more peaceful, like business focused, less traumatic driven way. And I do have fire. I figured out I am fierce. I still have grit. You know, I have all those things, but I'm not driving for that. And more of what I had that I was chasing came to me naturally without me chasing it. All of a sudden the world just kind of changed. So I just want to say that like there's a different way that you can get to your goals. All right, now you can wrap up.
I
That's
was going to
important.
ask you to read this. If let me see if it'd zoom in. I don't. Yeah. Um, I want you because you're a great reader.
All right.
I would
The
like if
purple
you don't
part or the
mind
whole
the
there?
whole thing. Can you see
Okay,
it?
I can now. Anyone who wants to know the human psyche will learn next to nothing from experimental psychology. He would be better advised to abandon exact science, put away his scholar's gown, bid farewell to his study, and wander with human heart through the world. There, in the horrors of prisons, lunatic asylums and hospitals, in drab suburban pubs, in brothels and gambling halls, in the salons of the elegant, the stock exchanges, social meetings, churches, revivalist gatherings, and ecstatic sex, through love and hate, through the experience of passion, in every form in his own body, he would reap richer stores of knowledge than textbooks a foot thick could give him, and he will know how to doctor the sick with a real knowledge of the human soul. Carl Gustav Jung. Yeah,
If you're listening to
exactly.
this episode of the Culture Matters podcast, I need you to find my dear friends on the internet and follow them. Get close to Christine Beckwith, buy all 6 of her books and read all of them multiple times. Reach out to Nathan Knottingham, get to know him. Follow Mike Drop, Mike Calhoun, get close to him. I love all of you. You're amazing. This did not go in the direction that I thought it would. And yeah, I think it's really cool. I mean, of course I do, right? So thank you for coming back, coming back on the show. Happy New Year. 2024, my word for the year is intensity. And I dedicate this day to John Schwartz. We love and miss you. September 9th, 2024. We recorded last year together. You were one of the 12 people I had the gift to record with. And I know you're watching us. So anyone listening to this could go listen to John's episodes. Thank you all for coming on.
Nice meeting you, Mike.
Hey, pleasure.
Nice meeting you,
Both of
Mike.
you.
We
Look
will
forward
see
to
you
Yeah.
all.
the future.
Hey, happy
See
New
you all.
Thank
Year.
you, Tom.
And I love
Yes.
this episode of Jubilee. That's really fun. Good work.
See you next year.
Thank you, Nathan.
See you later in the week, Nathan. Bye, Jay.
See ya.